Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting live and proudly from the Hesselson studio. This morning we have a lot to cover. Did you watch the president's address to the nation? Well, if you did, you didn't watch it on ABC or NBC. They refused to air it. CBS cut out during the speech. So kind of returning to that conversation we had yesterday where some people were critical of how much attention Democrats get on Fox News. We see that Fox News still the leader in getting the information you need to know. Now, we do have some comments to the viewer. I saved a few for Phil, and a few will start the program off because I think it's an open question for everyone. Saying good morning, and we appreciate that. Good morning. And when I say Phil, yes, it is Fridays with Phil. Assemblyman Phil Palmisano will be our guest in the 7 o'clock hour. Given the recent passing of Lindsey Graham and the resultant homophobic slurs uttered by the Democrats, and given the Democrats' utterances against Republican women, thereby in each case displaying their hypocrisy without naming names, can you tell us of any similar or other examples of this type of hypocrisy that is prevalent in the Democratic Party? I would say, and this is an open question for everyone, I would say that the hypocrisy, too, of the anti-Semitism protests where they are pushing this narrative about Palestine, and yet look at the other countries that they embrace in some ways, like Iran. But we'll continue. And don't forget about DEI initiatives the Democrats allegedly embrace, yet excludes white men, Americans, and Israelis, as well as law-abiding citizens. Also, I'm curious as to the differences between affirmative action and DEI initiatives. In my mind, they are essentially one and the same. And affirmative action has been simply renamed because it was getting a bad name. I think that's a fair point. But again, I'm going to open that up to everyone. And that leads to another one. There's a few others in there that we'll save for Phil. But as President Trump has proven, and this was in yesterday's address to the nation, China, Russia, Iran, and so on can easily manipulate votes in our election. It's apparent that foreign concerns, such as those listed above that I just mentioned, would want Democrats to be in control. Do you feel this is why Democrats are so desperate to not have the SAVE Act passed? Yeah, and I think the president even said that last night at one point. We'll get to that in a second. That anyone that doesn't support the SAVE Act wants this type of cheating. Also, is there any evidence that Democrats are getting foreign kickbacks for their cooperation in voting down the SAVE Act? Not that I'm aware of, but that doesn't mean something won't break on that quickly. And I see a lot of comments coming in. We'll get to those in the next segment. The United States did hit bridges and collapsed towers at a key Iranian port. Now, I know Iran hit some U.S. military bases last night as well, but this is breaking early this morning. The U.S. expanded its airstrike campaign against Iran by hitting more bridges and collapsing a tower at a key Iranian port, which is part of President Trump's threats to start striking infrastructure to pressure Tehran. Iran launched a new missile attack against U.S. allied nations in the Middle East, including Qatar, which, remember, Qatar is a key mediator in this war. The interim ceasefire agreed to last month has collapsed, as we know. So that is a breaking story this morning. Now, speaking in the primetime address last night, Trump insisted the war was going well, saying we are likewise winning big in Iran, and you will see the fruits of that labor very, very shortly. Again, it was reported that that Iran did target some U.S. military bases last night. Okay, a couple of other quick things to get to. We're going to be rushing through some of these with no real segue, but I wanted to pass this along to you. Congressman Nick Langworthy released a statement yesterday. I know we've all been talking about and dealing with the wildfire smoke from Canada. Yesterday got very hazardous, worse than the day before. I would say that the day before looked eerier, if you will. It was oranger, but yesterday, talking with many people, and I think all of us included, you could feel it. Well, Congressman Langworthy released this statement saying Americans should not be forced to breathe hazardous air year after year because Canada refuses to properly manage its forests. There's no longer a one-time emergency. It's becoming an annual public health crisis. That is unacceptable. I'm reaching out to members of Parliament and the Canadian ambassador to demand answers about the devastating impact Canada's forest management failures are having on Western New York, the Southern Tier, and communities across the United States. Millions of Americans are paying the price for policies they had no role in creating. We can all accept that nature is unpredictable, but repeated failures to reduce wildfire risk and manage forests responsibly are a policy choice. The United States cannot continue accepting dangerous air quality every summer as the new normal. Canada must take meaningful action to prevent these catastrophic wildfires and protect both Canadians and Americans. If it refuses to do so, there should be consequences. Our citizens should not be forced to suffer because another nation's government failed to do its job. Thank you, Congressman Nick Langworthy. Okay, we've talked all week about daylight savings time bill. According to a report out of Arkansas Senator, we know the name, Tom Cotton, is expected to block a bipartisan proposal to make daylight savings time permanent. This is according to a report from Semaphore. The Sunshine Protection Act would end the twice-year time change in the spring and fall for Americans to make daylight savings time permanent. This would keep sunsets later throughout the year. The bill was approved 48-1 in May by lawmakers on the House Energy and Commerce Committee. The House passed the bill 308-117 on July 14th. It will now move on to the Senate for approval. For the bill to become law, the House and Senate must approve it before President Trump signs it into law. I think that's Civics 101. But a Semaphore report said aides expect Senator Cotton to block the bill, saying aides expect Senator Cotton to block permanent daylight savings bill. He gave a long speech in 2025 explaining his opposition and his mistake in letting it pass 4 years ago. In 2022, the Senate reportedly approved the bill, but the House never voted on it. President Trump has publicly supported the change, and it seems as if polling is showing that it's, I'm not going to say overwhelming, but it is getting major support. Senator Cotton had vowed not to make the same mistake, something he touched on in an October 2025 speech opposing the bill last year, saying, "I didn't personally object in 2022 for two reasons. First, I hadn't adequately communicated to my staff the depth of my opposition to this bill. Second, because of a miscommunication, I expected another senator who also opposed the bill to object. I take full responsibility for this mistake, though the search for someone else to blame is actively ongoing." I'm not sure why you would want to block that. I mean, I think overall Senator Tom Cotton has done a good job. I'm confused as to why you want to be kind of the fly in the ointment, where it seems as if most people have been supportive of it. Also, not necessarily, well, kind of an update. New Jersey Governor Mickey Sherrill, far leftist, she's taking heat after her state, New Jersey, showed that their flags were at full staff despite a White House proclamation directing them to be flown at half staff nationwide in remembrance of Senator Lindsey Graham. Quote, "This is probably the most political Trenton administration, and she's only been there 6 months. Probably the most political governor I've served with in the 25 years," said New Jersey, State Senator Joe Pinocchio. He formally requested the governor lower the flags earlier this week after Graham's death. A Trenton source confirmed that flags at the Capitol remained at full staff as of midday yesterday. A New Jersey Department of Staff website tracking flag status also indicated all flags full staff on Thursday. Sherrill, whose office did not respond to multiple requests for comments, appeared to be one of a handful of Democrat state leaders to ignore the White House's proclamation. Neighboring Delaware, Pennsylvania, oh, interesting. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They worded that strange. Neighboring Delaware, Governor Matt Mayer, and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro both reportedly ordered flags lowered. Good. Along with the leaders of California, Colorado, and Maryland. New York Governor Kathy Hochul and Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger did not appear to issue half-staff orders, either because each state's official flag status remained full staff as of Thursday. So it sounds like it's not just in New Jersey. It could very well be the pettiness of someone that wants to make it on the national scene, and that is Governor Kathy Hochul. So that would come as no surprise. But think of that. I mean, that is the hatred that we've, unfortunately, has been, I would say, a running theme this whole week. But let's be honest, for years, this hatred for Donald Trump, anybody associated with Donald Trump, Republicans, to not put the flags at half staff for Senator Lindsey Graham, clearly due to political reasons. Also, speaking of that kind of hatred and that political reasons, Fox News correspondent Damarie McNichol reports on the official renaming of Palm Beach International Airport to President Donald J. Trump International Airport. Okay. United Airlines is planning to offer passengers flight changes free of charge if they want to avoid landing at the newly renamed President Donald J. Trump International Airport in Florida, according to an internal memo that appears aimed at customers who object to the airport's new name. So imagine, you've got to almost say that someone who gets that offended by landing at an airport because it's named after the president, they've got it pretty easy. If that's the only thing that messes up your day, if that's the only stress that you have, if that's the only thing that keeps you up at night, I'd say you've got it made. I say you have it pretty easy, and maybe take a step back and relax. But yes, people that petty, that I would argue pathetic, that they don't want to fly in to Donald J. Trump International Airport. So United Airlines, I wouldn't even know if they're caving to the pressure or if this is kind of getting ahead of complaints, offering flight changes absolutely free of charge if they don't want to land there. Passengers who object to landing at the airport, previously Palm Beach International Airport, may be moved to Fort Lauderdale or Miami without having to pay extra, according to the internal memo. Quote, if a customer does not want to fly to the airport, use your empowerment to offer acceptable alternatives, such as Fort Lauderdale Airport or Miami International. The guidance says, quote, I understand that you'd rather not fly to this airport anymore. Can we look at nearby airports like Fort Lauderdale or Miami instead? Is that acceptable alternative? Imagine also what that does to your vacation, or people do live in Florida. You're living there, the extra mileage, the extra trip, all because of a name. That doesn't affect you whatsoever. It's not like you get it tattooed on your arm when you get to the airport. Fort Lauderdale is roughly 45 miles south of West Palm Beach, while Miami is about 72 miles away, giving passengers alternative access to South Florida without stepping foot, heaven forbid, at President Donald J. Trump International Airport. All right, we're going to end the segment and take a break on this note. Don Lemon, who's a part of that group that stormed that church to push their political narrative, former CNN host, he calls himself an independent journalist, Don Lemon. He claimed in a new interview that he's, quote, serious about possibly running for president in the 2028 election, and insisted he'd be a, quote, really good commander-in-chief. He said in this interview on some podcast, they said, do you have any political ambition? He said, no, but people keep asking me if I'm running for president. Asking you if you're going to run for president and encouraging you to run for president, by the way, two very different things. And I don't know, I might. I'm serious, I don't know. I might, because people keep asking me to do it, or I'm going to do it, or if I'm going to do it. So again, there's two, that's very different, Mr. Lemon. Are people asking you if you're going to do it, or are people encouraging you? Because it sounds like, by the way you corrected yourself after the first time saying it, it's just asking if you will, not encouraging you. Lemon went on to obviously bash Trump, claiming the president could have done a better job if he actually listened to people, but he doesn't, and he thinks he knows everything. But actually, I think I could be a really good president of the United States. Lemon said that for him to spearhead a presidential campaign, he would have to do it without having to beg for money, and that he doesn't know if this is realistic or not. How about that? All right, when we return, what do you think of President Trump's address to the nation? Stay with us. We'll be right back.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tubs and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional, is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
Get ready 185th Chemung County Fair. 5 days of family fun. August 4th through August 8th at the Chemung County Fairgrounds in Horseheads. Experience thrilling rides, exciting games, and captivating livestock shows. Taste delicious fair food and explore local vendors. Rust and Fright Concert August 4th. Tractor Pull August 5th. Rodeo August 6th. Truck Pull August 7th. Demolition Derby August 8th. Join us for the 185th Chemung County Fair, where tradition meets excitement. Visit ChemungCountyFair.com for tickets and details.
Make this the summer Jeep event you've been waiting for. Save over $7,200 on all new 2026 Jeep Wrangler 2-door Sports.
Don't miss the Make This the Summer Jeep event. Drive home your new 2026 Jeep Wrangler today. Chilson Wilcox, selling cars a different way, the right way. Adventure starts here.
Hurry in! When they're gone, they're gone.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, just putting all these great comments together. All right, these are comments from viewers. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning to you. Why is the Trump and MAGA only think the 2020 election was rigged and not 2016 or 2024? Things are only rigged when he loses? If anything, I think 2024 was rigged since Musk knew the results before anybody else. I think, did I read that piece on the air the other day, or was it just off the air I was reading it, where there is this, on both sides, where it's that same mindset that you were saying, that it's rigged if you don't win. And that's been on both sides. It goes back, let's face it, even to Hillary Clinton, even books years later that she released, still blaming Russia. So I think it's a fair question. But I think it's something that both parties would have to look in the mirror. Okay, comment from a different viewer. Just an idea, Frank. Don't shoot the messenger. Should we invade Canada and put out their, we'll say, darn fires? It seems like something has to be done. I don't know, invade, that's funny. Wasn't that not President Trump never talked about invading, but he did talk about making Canada the 51st state or early on in this term. So I don't know. We'll see where that heads. Thank you for the comment, though. Another comment from a different viewer. Do you think there was such manipulation of votes in the New York City mayoral election? I'm not sure about the mayoral election. I think the problem with let's take two different questions here. One that you didn't ask, but one I'll just mention. When it comes to the Democrat Socialists of America winning in the primary, that was such low voter turnout. And one thing that the DSA does is the grassroots campaigning, and they get out and vote. So that I don't believe was manipulation. That I believe was just, again, probably something. Well, we deal with it locally on our primaries. We deal with it locally even in the general elections in off years where people are apathetic. They don't get out and vote. It's sad. But on the mayor's race, that was kind of the perfect storm. You've got Zohran Mamdani promising everybody everything, saying that by pushing affordability, he meant government's going to pay for everything. Okay. So you've got that group that is, let's face it, New York City's far, far left, so they like this idea of socialism. So you've got those people that get out and vote. And then on the other options, you have Sliwa, who I like, but is kind of an always kind of runs guy, right? And then you had Cuomo, where they were asking Republicans to get out and with some kind of passion and vote for Cuomo. I've always thought that wasn't some type of bellwether. That wasn't some type of big sign of socialism to come. Now, since then, Mamdani has been pretty successful in his endorsements. But again, I don't think that was some sign of things to come. I think that just was a perfect storm for Mamdani to win. Ken writes in, could there be anything more telling and confirming than the legacy media in the operable wing and propagandists of and for the Democrat Party? When major legacy media outlets elect to not carry a presidential address to the nation about voter fraud, the only possible reason that they would elect to refuse to cover that address is that they wanted to hide the information from as many of the American people as possible. The headline from them will be, the Trump administration is lying to America on the safety of our elections to get a bill passed that federalizes elections so Republicans can steal the 2028 election. You're right, and that's a kind of a big headline, but you're not far off, Ken. That's exactly how CNN reported it. Their analysis, and I'm going to continue, Ken had more to say, but their analysis this morning, why Trump's election speech could be a warning about his 2026 intentions. So instead of 2028, they're talking about it being stealing the midterm. So that's why I find it interesting when we talk about this. Again, the media and Democrats lecturing Trump about and MAGA supporters, like the viewer said, about, well, it's stolen if you lose, but let's face it, they're doing the same, they're saying and doing the same exact things. But we'll continue with what Ken had to say. Even the low information sheeple would realize how dishonest and corrupt the legacy media is if they paid any attention at all. But alas, they won't take the initiative to watch or listen to any of the lying conservative stations. Lying in quotes, of course. They will keep their heads buried deeply in the hypothetical sands of the legacy media. Yeah, and the media knows that they have that power. CBS cut away from Trump's election fraud speech, and as ABC and NBC refused to air it altogether. CBS anchor Tony DeCopel explained why the network was airing it, quote, much of what the president has said on security of American elections has been false, end quote. There is an argument that it's irresponsible to air the president's speech tonight, but this speech will be made, it will be news, and it's our job to cover the news. CBS ended its coverage about 5 minutes before Trump finished speaking, shortly after the president called on the other two broadcast networks to lose their government licenses for not airing the remarks at all. DeCopel then began fact-checking Trump's claims about Chinese interference in the 2020 election. Now, the way I understand it, there wasn't all that much about 2020, was it? Now, news networks are not obligated to air the president's remarks, and executives typically make decisions based on the content of the speech. When Trump gave a primetime address in April on the war in Iran, all the networks carried it live. Still, the president and his staff were publicly angry at the news outlets that didn't air Trump's 25-minute speech last night. Trump, in his remarks, claimed China worked with some American journalists to discredit him. He said ABC and NBC News knew the topic he would speak on and didn't, quote, like it. They knew what it was about because of the facts that they don't like the topic because they know how corrupt our system is and they don't want to reveal it. They and others in the media are part of a plot. They want to continue this fraud for whatever reason. They want to keep it going. They want to protect the radical left. Fraud like this should mean a revocation of their licenses. White House Communications Director Stephen Chung said, cowards, NBC and ABC don't want you to hear the truth. All they want to do is hide the facts from you. On the cable side, CNN did not air the speech live, but Fox News, of course, they did. MS Now aired parts of Trump's remarks. But they want to, and President Trump, spot on with that they want to protect the radical left. They can't have a great country, and that's true. You can't have a great country without free and fair elections. Now, Trump revealed during his speech that China stole voter registration data from 220 million Americans in his primetime speech. Now, how CNN's reporting it is, well, that doesn't mean anything fraudulent happened. Okay, no, rest easy. That doesn't mean they tried to manipulate the election. It just meant they wanted your private information. Okay, that's the hill you're willing to die on. Okay. Trump said over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. I thought it was funny. I can't remember what outlet I was on this morning or watching this morning, and they quoted China, saying China has denied ever being involved in meddling of elections. Yeah, it seems fair to take their word for it. over the President of the United States. The President continued, that information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China assigned a data exploitation unit specifically to the new project. Some government officials reportedly knew China stole at least some voter registration data as early as 2020, but didn't tell the president about it before the election that year. Quote, members of the deep state, a very, very famous group of people, in many cases in our intelligence agencies, work to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling, covering it up from both the president and the American people like nobody thought was possible. There have been multiple reports of Beijing accessing U.S. voter registration data. An intelligence report declassified back in 2022 found that, quote, Chinese officials analyzed multiple U.S. state election voter registration data, but the number of affected Americans has never been reported. Trump further revealed the Chinese government's strategy against the U.S. dating back to the mid-2019s, which he said was focused on undermining domestic confidence in the U.S. president. They wanted to just make you sound like your president wasn't so hot, when actually your president has done a great job and did everything possible to do exactly that. The president also highlighted raw intelligence obtained by the FBI in 2020 that detailed China's attempt to manufacture illegal ballots for Joe Biden. He claimed the Chinese election interference plots were buried by rogue bureaucrats. One email among intelligence analysts admitted that they had deliberately massaged the presidential's daily briefing to withhold information regarding Chinese activities related to the election. Another official inside the FBI wrote that she was running a shadow election, or a shadow government, to keep intelligence about China's election meddling from becoming known. Indeed, a document and a batch of declassified files released by the White House shows that an FBI official named Nikki Flores wrote in a chat log to a colleague, quote, I'm basically running a shadow government across the FBI at this point. Wow. Proud of it. Bragging about it. When we return, we'll talk a little bit more about this. I don't want to focus the whole time on it, but I would like to hear your thoughts on it. All right, stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Watch news from the Twin Tiers and catch local events on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Oh, dear coach. Dear coach, they don't teach you that inner strength is the most important kind of strong. But you taught me that.
They don't teach you how to build confidence in yourself or how to deal with all the pressures all at once. But you taught me that.
First tee was more than golf. It's where I discovered what I'm capable of.
You didn't just prepare me for 18 holes. You were preparing me for every day of my life. Learn more at firsttee.org.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at SCORE.org.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Voss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comments from viewers. Jack writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Jack. Free alternative flights. TDS is more rampant than COVID ever was. They need a lockdown break and or a vaccine for it. Thank you, Jack. Yes, Mark writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. It just shows us how far the Democrats will go, not flying the flag at half staff for Lindsey Graham and not going to an airport named after Trump. I believe it's only going to get worse when it gets closer to the midterms. Yeah, actually, Marco Rubio has a fantastic, and I've got more comments coming in, but Marco Rubio has a fantastic piece. I saw it at the New York Post, but I believe it was elsewhere as well, talking about where is it? I should have been better prepared. I apologize. There it is. Marco Rubio. America will no longer ignore the threat of left-wing violence. This was, because he opened at the resurgence of political terrorism at the State Department yesterday, warning far-left extremism and violence is on the rise. He said, for far too long, our counterterrorism doctrine has had a blind spot when it comes to extremist violence from the political left. Even today, the very idea that far-left terrorism could be a serious threat is treated as a right-wing fever dream, or worse, as a dangerous fascist conspiracy. It's treated this way by many in the press, by many in academia and our universities, and by many of our legacy institutions. You will no doubt see the dogma rear its head in the coverage of this very conference. In spite of the clear and the undeniable reality, in spite of the objective numbers and statistics, in spite of the fact that in this room today there are representatives from across the political spectrum, we will hear this kind of organized violence and terror will be dismissed. It will be dismissed as a partisan fiction. And he goes through and names a lot of examples. You can find that for yourself. We don't have time to get to all of it this morning. We're going to talk with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano here in just a little bit in the 7 o'clock hour. All right. Comment from a different viewer. The papers that will be released concerning manipulation of votes will be released today. These papers will include results of the FBI investigation as well as other agencies. So are the far left media outlets also saying the FBI is lying? Yeah, probably. They just don't want to cover it. I mean, they'll say the FBI is controlled by Trump. You know that they'll do anything they can to downplay and call President Trump's any speech lies. Such as CNN's, their takeaways is little in the way of new evidence. Okay. Trump's big reveal was a series of newly declassified. Well, how is something newly declassified? So very little new evidence. Interesting. They claim were hidden from both him and the American people, and that showed the American election system is catastrophically short of the standard required. But an early CNN review of the documents finds that they largely discuss previously known potential vulnerabilities in the American election system and issues that were included in a 2021 assessment from the U.S. intelligence community. But it's a big warning about Trump in the 2026 election. That doesn't mean the speech wasn't significant. This, again, if you're just joining us, CNN. It is as a potential statement of intent. Given Trump's history of falsely claiming elections that don't go his way are rigged and the violence that resulted on January 6, 2021, his decision to give this speech less than 4 months ahead of an election that looks really tough for the GOP should send shivers down the spine of the American body politic. This is Aaron Blake from CNN. Are you getting shivers down your spine? Trump didn't preview a heavy-handed effort by the federal government to get more involved in election administration around the country, things like upending voting procedures or putting troops at polling places, as some of his critics have feared. But he did seem to preview another episode of claiming elections were stolen. Quote, put together, these disclosures reveal an election system so broken and so vulnerable that no one can possibly defend it. It's not defensible. He even hyperbolically said American elections were, quote, worse than any third world country. He said the federal government would be working closely with states to mitigate any harm, and we're taking swift action to ensure that sensitive voter data is better protected. And Trump made clear he's happy to call the next election rigged, especially if Congress doesn't pass the Save America Act. Quote, but most important, addressing the crisis of election security demands, that Congress must pass the Save America Act. He paused for effect, even sounding somewhat angry, adding, how easy is that to do unless you want to cheat? The only reason you wouldn't do it is you want to cheat because your policies are so bad and your candidates are so pathetic that you can't get elected any other way. Now, the Save America Act doesn't actually appear to have a chance to pass, and some prominent members of Trump's old party have urged him to accept that fact. But then here, not much relitigating of 2020. Yeah, everybody seems to be focused, and this is CNN saying it, that it didn't go back to 2020. And then how about this for one of their takeaways? Trump's typical false claims. Trump gave broadcasters a difficult choice whether to give him primetime air for a speech whose content they weren't sure of and on a topic that Trump is well known for lying about. Some, including CNN, opted to not air the speech on TV. White House spokesman Stephen Chung, as I mentioned, called them cowards that don't want to hear the truth. Within moments of starting his speech, Trump made false claims about inheriting the worst inflation in 48 years and the Biden administration letting in more than 11,000 murderers, neither of which is true, according to CNN. Interesting. Be nice if they had a little more information on that, but okay. Trump's speech was also exceedingly political. Anyway, enough. Trump was probably preaching to the choir was their last takeaway. Okay. Well, because the media was scared to present it, to report it. But Trump talked about the shadow government. He called on the FBI to investigate the significant evidence of fraud in Michigan's 2020 election. The declassified intelligence records show that China compromised at least 18 state voter rolls. Let's see who made the list. Yes, New York is in there. Our friends in Pennsylvania look safe, but New York, your data, your voter data could be in the hands of Chinese agents as we speak. Also, Trump claimed that China wanted him to resign during his first term. China was working to influence the results of the U.S. midterm elections and later the results of the 2020 U.S. presidential election. As part of this campaign, China was analyzing the 2015 U.S. presidential elections and identifying U.S. states who voted for the U.S. president. This is what the report says. The Chinese would then identify sectors within those states that voted to support the U.S. president's political party and would attempt to make those sectors experience negative financial consequences by levying tariffs on exports to China from those sectors. Anyway. But again, Trump saying the only reason not to pass the Save America Act is if you want to cheat. I've also ordered DHS to notify every state about non-citizens on their voter rolls and direct them to remove all ineligible voters from the lists immediately. But most importantly, address the crisis of election security, demands that Congress must pass the Save America Act. How easy is that to do unless you want to cheat? The only reason you wouldn't do it is if you want to cheat, because your policies are so bad and your candidates are so pathetic that you can't get away or you can't get elected any other way. The landmark bill requires that all voters must show photo ID. How simple is that? Could I have your photo, please? Photo voter ID. All voters must provide proof of citizenship. All right, there we go. Now, Senator Chris Coons, a Democrat from Delaware, said all this was Trump having a temper tantrum over the Save America Act. All right. Hey, speaking of which, I know I got to take a break. I'm running late. Speaking of which, we talked about ABC and NBC not broadcasting the speech, CBS cutting out midway through. And President Trump calling for a look into their licenses. Well, The View, which for some reason we've talked about The View a lot this week. The View faces trouble as the FCC is preparing to crack down on ABC and their show and revoke Disney's licenses, saying that essentially they try to present themselves as a news station or a news program. So if they take that designation away, it means that they would have to follow the equal time provision. So if they have on, like they do, what was it, something like 98%, don't quote me on that, of liberal guests, they would have to now even that out to around 50-50. Anyway, enough on that. I see your comments coming in. I see your waves coming in, but we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Every journey is a shared experience. On the road, every decision has an impact, especially the decision to speed. Every mile per hour matters. Your speed affects more than just you. Ride and drive, as if everyone's life depends on it. Together, riders and drivers can save lives.
Looking for a meaningful day trip close to home? Visit the historic Elmira Prison Camp, one of the most significant Civil War sites in the North. Walk the grounds, stand where history happened, discover powerful stories of courage, sacrifice, and survival that shaped our nation. Whether you're a history enthusiast, a family looking to learn together, or simply exploring the Finger Lakes region, we offer an experience you won't forget. Plan your visit today at elmiracivilwar.org. Preserve, discover, remember.
We invited passionate soccer fans to push Nissan vehicles to the limit, just like they do with their teams. Further proof that the Nissan lineup is tested and trusted by the toughest. Hurry in to bring home a winning offer at the Nissan Summer Sales Event.
Get 0% APR on select model trims for well-qualified buyers, or get up to $5,750 total savings on select Frontier trims.
There, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers for our Friday. Still dealing with areas of smoke and a high around 84. Overnight into Saturday, some shower and thunderstorm potential with a low of 64. Saturday's thunderstorms may be capable of some severe conditions as well as some locally heavy rainfall. We'll see highs in the mid-80s. After that system, cooler and quieter, more comfortable Sunday into Monday. We'll look to Tuesday for the next chance of
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street Corning. A couple comments from viewers. I don't get shivers down my spine. Instead, like a cat or dog, ready to fight. The hairs along my spine are standing on end. Thank you very much. Oh, a wave. I forgot to count. Thank you for that. Good morning. And then Mark writes in, wait a minute. If they didn't air Trump's speech, they shouldn't be allowed to give their opinion about it. That's a fair point. Trump needs to crack down on these news agencies, and they do need to lose their licenses. Thank you, Mark. We had mentioned yesterday, oh man, we've got a lot to cover. Not a lot of time to get there. I've got a couple other things on the Democrat Party that I think is worth mentioning as we near the midterm elections. But yesterday we talked about J.D. Vance on Joe Rogan and some of the things that he said. The New York Post editorial board said the Vice President J.D. Vance, and I bring this to you because I want to get your opinion on it, needs to get his head out of the conspiratorial rabbit holes he says he loves to explore and drop the bizarro line he just pitched to Joe Rogan that the Israelis blew up the Iran peace deal because they want to keep the war going indefinitely. It was Iran that broke the 60-day comprehensive ceasefire established by the Memorandum of Understanding by attacking ships in the Strait of Hormuz, period. No Jews involved. Before the ink was dry on the MOU, which guaranteed open passage through the Strait of Hormuz, the Islamic Guard asserted Tehran's control and ownership of the waterways and warned that merchant ships must obtain its okay to transit. Then it started firing on vessels that didn't comply. Blocking sea lanes reopened the war, and Israel had nothing to do with it. It also preposterous to charge that Jerusalem wants the war to drag on indefinitely. It's always been clear about its objective on Iran: destroy its nuclear capability, eviscerate its conventional war machine, if possible, foster the end of the regime that makes Tehran an enemy of civilization. Yes, Israel hated the MOU, which was drawn up completely without its involvement, and so left in no way to undermine it, except insofar as Iran claimed that Israel's self-defense against Hezbollah's attack from Lebanon somehow broke the truce. Yeah, that wasn't a good part of that. Even then, Jerusalem yielded to President Trump's demands that it back off in Lebanon. Vance went on to other ugly places in the chat, pretending that an open Israel-funded PR effort to counter anti-Semitism among younger conservatives somehow is actually a secret drive to undo peace with Iran and smear him, suggesting that the craziest Jeffrey Epstein conspiracy theories are true and Israel is part of the plot. Maybe he wanted to deflect responsibility for the failure of the MOU he helped negotiate. Maybe he resents how Trump opted for a war he likely opposed and then stuck him with it trying to negotiate an exit. Whatever the reason, pitching conspiracy theories, especially ones that flirt with rank anti-Semitism, is the wrong way out of your dilemma. As big as the Republican tent can be, it has absolutely no room for this. So your thoughts on that. I have not had an opportunity, just time constraints. I haven't had an opportunity to watch. I think it's almost 3 hours, the interview, but I hope to at some point this weekend. Okay. How am I doing on time? Good. Before we start talking about the far left and what we're looking at the Democrat Party today as we near the midterm elections, it's worth mentioning, this is coming from Fox News, that before Graham Plattner's dramatic exit from the Maine Senate race last week, the Democrat hopeful received glowing coverage from the legacy media. We know that. Now out of the race after multiple scandals, including a rape allegation from a former girlfriend that he's denied, the friendly coverage he received is getting a second look. The Guardian was among the first outlets to publish a profile on Plattner, running a story last August headline, "This Maine oysterman thinks Democrats are doing jack about fascism." So he's running for U.S. Senate. And this whole piece, it's worth probably giving it a read if you want. It shows how much they, for lack of a better word, romanticized him, tried to make him this, quote, manly man that the Democrats are apparently so in need of or searching for. And they go through and GQ, Marine turned oysterman. Graham Plattner is ready to fight Trump. Will MAGA men join him? The Washington Post put a spotlight on Plattner, calling him meet the rugged guys of the 2026 midterm. You get the idea. But this glowing review, even though even at the beginning of this, we knew of his Nazi tattoo, we knew of other disgusting statements made on Reddit, but he received glowing media coverage before his dramatic exit. It goes to show you the difference that the Republicans and Democrats have in getting media coverage, glowing with no want to look into his background. All right, we got to take a short break. We're going to talk a little bit about the Democrat Party. As I said, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano will be our guest in the 7 o'clock hour, so get your questions in for Fridays with Phil. Also, yesterday we talked with Steuben's Senior Services Fund. Congratulations to our ticket winner. I hope everybody can make it out to Bubbly and Brunch next Sunday, July 26th at 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. I would I think it's necessary. If you're going to buy tickets, do so today. It's pre-sale only, and it goes to a great cause, Steuben's Senior Services Fund and Full Circle America program. But it's vital you do so today because they have to do a head count. So essentially, ticket sales are, I think they said Monday, but do so today. Go to their website. Okay, we got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
I was back at Hardaway High School, college first round draft pick. During the football season, I would stop eating. But I didn't know I was depressed. We didn't have any education behind what mental health was. I started to learn it starts here first. If this is together, I'll be better as a father and as a husband.
We have to redefine what being a strong man is
and heal, love your mind.
Dear Soccer, with Toyota's all-star lineup, everyone's game. From goalies to forwards and all their fans. Jump in, kick back, and let's go. Toyota. Lease the tech-savvy Corolla with 0 down or the all-hybrid Camry with 0 down and first month's payment due at signing. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota. Let's go.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson Studios. Comment from viewers. This one in all caps. Release the Epstein files! ! Thank you very much. Ken writes in, Frank, can you imagine how disappointed in America the founding fathers would be if they could see what our political system has devolved to today? Yeah, the divide in this country, and imagine their horror at the rise of the Democrat Socialists of America. Hey, by the way, this is being reported, and it is breaking news that came out yesterday. This is being reported by the New York Post. The Arizona Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego, close friends with Eric Swalwell, a potential, and I don't know who's saying this, it seems like everybody's a potential 2028 presidential candidate, but apparently, he, in his own mind anyway, 2028 presidential candidate, engaged, again, Senator Ruben Gallego, allegedly engaged in sexual relationships with at least 2 House staffers, and his, quote, very flirtatious habits with others may come back to haunt him. This again coming from the New York Post. The 46-year-old lawmaker admitted to the two relationships, both were aides to Texas Democrats, to one source, while a second person said they had recently learned of the romantic entanglements. A third source confirmed one of the dalliances, both of which are said to have been consensual and occurred during Gallego's decade representing Phoenix in the House. The relationships are part of a broader pattern of mistakes and missteps in judgment calls, one source said, noting the imbalanced power dynamics of the elected official dating a staffer. One of the women were in her late 20s, or in her 20s, I don't know why I said late, in her 20s and much younger than Gallego at the time. What else could there be out there? Now, if you recall, Representative Anna Paulina Luna had alleged this previously at a ethics discussion. Now, when asked about this, scandal about Gallego, he said, I'm not going to engage in gossip. I'm not going to engage in gossip. That was his only response. So really a non-denial, okay? That's what's important there. Not a denial. I'm not going to engage in gossip. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer sputtered, I'm not focused on this right now, when asked by Fox News. Rumors had swirled about Gallego's personal life following the April resignation of his best friend in Congress, Representative Eric Swalwell. Luna claimed in CBS News interview back in April that a woman was preparing to speak out about an incident involving Gallego and Swalwell at the same time, and the event was sexual in nature, allegedly. On April 23rd, Luna claimed on social media that I have now heard of 4 women who have multiple and uncomfortable, inappropriate advances, comments, touching, etc. from Senator Gallego. Of course, when that was reported, Gallego just went after Anna Paula Luna, calling her a right-wing conspiracy theorist, and that's really the typical response. Representative Abe Hammond said this scumbag doesn't deserve the privilege of representing the people of Arizona. Ruben Gallego should follow his buddy Swalwell's lead and resign. Former Representative Jason Chavetz added Congress needs to step up, do the right thing, and force expulsion. All right, there we are. So that they called them the cool kids clique. Yeah, real cool. Gallego, Swalwell, and the third member, I guess Representative Jimmy Gomez. Is that who? Yeah, Jimmy Gomez. They're the cool kids clique. There you go. So Schumer dodged the question about the bombshell report that alleges that Gallego had a relationship with House staffers, refusing to answer. Okay. Oh, by the way, speaking of Eric Swalwell, I know I got to take a break. Disgraced Eric Swalwell's zombie congressional campaign has dwindled to just over $11,000 after he coughed up another $50,000 to celebrity defense attorney Sarah Azari and refunded nearly $190,000 to donors following his epic career collapse. The details were documented this week for the new federal campaign filings and come as California ethics investigators continue probing more than $300,000 in payments made to Azari from Swalwell's failed gubernatorial campaign, raising fresh questions about the disgraced Democrats' mounting legal bills as his political career continues to unravel. Swalwell's federal campaign filings, which list him as treasurer, paint the picture of a committee rapidly running out of money. Anyway, enough on that. Got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back, getting ready to wrap up hour number 1. Get your last second comments in.
Did you know that children growing up with poor air quality have smaller lungs and higher rates of asthma than children that grow up with good air quality? And unfortunately, poor communities have poor air quality. IQ Air Foundation is working to change this. Today, the IQ Air Foundation provides filtration technology to schools with poor air quality through our Clean Air for Kids program. Our goal is to help over 50,000 school children every year breathe over 90% cleaner air indoors, helping to level the playing field, reduce barriers to learning, reduce sick days, and increase test scores. Mitigating poor air quality is key to environmental justice. Help Clean Air for Kids reach more children at IQAirFoundation.org.
Hi there, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers for our Friday. Still dealing with areas of smoke and a high around 84. Overnight into Saturday, some shower and thunderstorm potential with a low of 64. Saturday's thunderstorms may be capable of some severe conditions as well as some locally heavy rainfall. We'll see highs in the mid-80s. After that system, cooler and quieter, more comfortable Sunday into Monday. We'll look to Tuesday for the next chance of rain across.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Ken writes in, my wife is suggesting that Big Fox organize a Frankly Speaking fundraising breakfast. The money raised could go to local charities. Being an animal lover, her suggestion would be the Elmira Animal Shelter. It could be a pancake breakfast called Flippin' with Frank. I like it. Let's see what we can do. I like that. Speaking of fundraisers, we'll look at that in the future. But speaking of that, I'm glad you gave me an opportunity. Don't forget, time is running up to make your donation that will be matched for the Salvation Army. This is completely different than the telethon that we do with the generous viewer that matches during the telethon. This is unrelated to that. There is a donor that up to $1,000, meaning if we can raise $1,000 till before July 31st, they will match that $1,000. So if you give 5, it's like you gave 10, and the Salvation Army is always in need because there's so much need in our community, and they do all the amazing work that strong leaders like those of the Salvation Army you would expect from them. And I know I mentioned this during the telethon, but it's not like when we get low on funds or low on supplies, it doesn't mean that we don't help. They still help. It's amazing what they can pull off. So if you are able, please make a donation because we'd love to hit that $1,000 goal. So it's matched, so it's $2,000 to the Salvation Army. If you're not a big QR code person and you want me to send that to you directly, let me know. I'll send you the link. But thank you, Ken. I do it. Thank you for the opportunity there. But also, I kind of like that idea. We'll have to talk about it. Okay. John Fetterman, quickly before we go. He said the deal breaker that would force him to ditch the Democrats, John Fetterman, he says he has no plans to abandon his party. But if our party ever becomes, and just makes it official, the anti-Israel party, that's when I would leave because that's been a moral clarity for me. My long-term concern has been with the Democrat Party, as I'm a member of that, is that our party is going to back away and turn their back on Israel. I would say they're pretty close, Mr. Fetterman, Senator Fetterman. I would say they may already reached it, right? Fetterman said it won't stop. In fact, if anything, it's going to accelerate, meaning the anti-Israel rhetoric. Look at the people that have won. They're anti-Israel, anti-American, anti-Western civilization overall. All right, we got to take a short break, getting ready for Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Watch news from the Twin Tiers and catch local events on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Get 185th Chemung County Fair. 5 days of family fun. August 4th through August 8th at the Chemung County Fairgrounds in Horseheads. Experience thrilling rides, exciting games, and captivating livestock shows. Taste delicious fair food and explore local vendors. Rust and Fright Concert August 4th. Tractor Pull August 5th. Rodeo August 6th. Truck Pull August 7th. Demolition Derby August 8th. Join us for the 185th Chemung County Fair, where tradition meets excitement. Visit ChemungCountyFair.com for tickets and details.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit AppleRidgeSeniorLiving.com and schedule your tour today.
Everyone has a community,
a neighborhood, school, place of worship, or other chosen groups, communities can provide support when you need it, including helping your kids avoid underage drinking and other substance use. Learn more at talktheyhearyou.samhsa.gov.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. We're so glad you joined us. In this hour, we're going to be talking with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, so get your questions in, get your comments in for the Assemblyman. We always look forward to having Fridays with Phil. Okay, before we move on to some of the topics, I have to remind you, because I know we'll get busy talking about all the issues of the day with the Assemblyman, and I don't want to forget to promote this one last time, at least one last time, unless I remember to do it one other time. And that is our big FIFA 2026 World Cup watch party this Sunday. And I would say this isn't just for soccer fans, because there's going to be food trucks, vendors, festivities. It's going to be a blast. Brought to you by the Gaffer District, Corning Incorporated, Guthrie, and of course, we're proud to be the sponsor, Big Fox, right here. So come on over to Centerway Square. The screen will be up on the stage. It's huge. It's beautiful. It's better than anything that you'll have at your house, I would think, I would assume. But come see Spain take on Argentina. You can arrive earlier. I saw the Gaffer reported that the festivities are really going to begin around 1, but 2:45 is when the coverage begins, the pre-game coverage, and then I believe the match kicks off at 3. But come on down, have a blast in the Gaffer District. Hope to see everybody there. Okay, speaking of sports, Stephen A. Smith, who some have speculated he's going to run for president, he said he's not. He's the sports broadcaster. He's got a program on SiriusXM called Straight Shooter with Stephen A. He was asked or talking about the socialist wing of the Democrat Party, which is so prevalent today, and we're going to talk about that with Phil. Quote, "This ain't Denmark, this ain't Finland, this ain't Sweden, this is the United States of America. You roll over to these borders with the vision and the fantasy and the passion that, yo, here I can achieve anything. That's what this is about America. We don't talk about that enough when it comes to the socialists, because they're convincing folks that rather than individuals are being a problem, rather than lobbyists being a problem, they're trying to convince you America's the problem." Good for him. You don't hear that enough because obviously the socialism has appealed to younger voters. And I do think some of it trickles back to President Biden giving away so much money during COVID, where people, not just younger people, they said, well, geez, if they can give me these kind of huge checks, maybe socialism does have. And of course, that's not the case. We saw inflation. I'm just saying. And that's why younger people, and there's many reasons, indoctrination in the education system. Tony Wyde at Fox News, Tony Wyde, a former small business owner, represents Wisconsin's 8th congressional district, said the latest wave of socialist victories in Democratic primaries in New York and elsewhere should be a wake-up call for Americans across the country. For years, many people dismissed socialism as a fringe movement within the Democrat Party. Unfortunately, that is no longer the case. The wins by self-described New York socialist Brad Lander, Dorliza Avila Chavalar, and Claire Valdez are the latest evidence that socialist movement is no longer a fringe faction operating on the margins of the Democrat Party. Socialists are increasingly setting the direction of the Democrat Party, and many voters in progressive areas of the country are willing to embrace it. That should concern every American. And he goes through and mentions each of the candidates more specifically. For years, many Americans assumed socialism could gain traction only in few areas like New York or San Francisco. Recent elections suggest otherwise. The movement is producing candidates, winning primaries, and replacing establishment Democrats with candidates who embrace a far more expansive role for government in the economy. I know voters in my district and across Wisconsin do not want to follow the same dangerous path we have seen in many coastal cities, and we must do everything we can to prevent that from happening here. If we do not put a stop to this radical left ideology now, it will come to our neighborhoods next. Americans who value economic opportunity, more choices for working Americans, and free enterprise should pay attention. What happened in New York was not an isolated incident or an isolated event. It was another sign that socialism is becoming the defining direction of the future of the Democrat Party. And I think there's no denying that at this point. A comment from a viewer: how many Democrats are going to run for president? There must be at least 50 by now. But as we all know, they're all losers and don't stand a chance. It is interesting to me, some of the people where they'll put that, in the article, potential 2028 candidate. And you're going, because Eric Swalwell was one. Gallego, that blows my mind. I mean, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name right. Gavin Newsom is the main one, I would suppose, him and Kamala Harris. But yeah, I would say that 50, if you went by media coverage of potential presidential candidates on the Democrat ticket, I would say probably 50 would be a good number to set the over-under at. And I would probably, if I was a betting person, I'd probably put it at over 50. Yeah, if I was a betting man, I probably would bet over 50. And I'm not, I know you weren't exaggerating. I mean, that's probably pretty accurate number. And something a little bit different, Jimmy Fallon took a dig last night at Joe Biden, or on Wednesday, Joe Biden, because Joe Biden has a new memoir. Did you hear what he's calling the memoir? And this isn't a joke. Promise Me, America. And it will chronicle the presidency and reveal the deeply agonizing calculation behind his decision to withdraw from the presidential race. Do you believe you're going to get the straight shooting? I think if it's straight shooting, I think Joe Biden was pressured, stabbed in the back by a party that he had worked for over 50 years, by the Nancy Pelosi's, by the Chuck Schumers. And I think on his way out, he decided, okay, I'm not going to run, but I'm going to endorse Harris early on. So if you don't think you can win with me, good luck with Harris, as a one last kind of a thumb in the eye to the party that stabbed him in the back. I don't think that'll be in the book, but I believe that's what happened behind the scenes. Now, the memoir is set to come out on November 17th, about 2 weeks after the midterms. See, originally, there was great consternation in the Democrat Party. They thought he was going to release it before the midterms. Because remember how mad they were at Dr. Jill for releasing that book where she said she thought Biden had a stroke? Which, again, we've had this conversation. So she thought he had a stroke during the debate, but yet they went on to a campaign rally after and then to the Waffle House with no emergency medical assistance. Anyway. But the Democrats and the media were upset because they didn't want to bring back kind of the Biden debacle fresh in people's mind before the midterms. And they basically told the Bidens to go away. So maybe he got the message. I don't know why, but releasing after the midterm. Well, Fallon showed a picture of the cover of the book and said the book was written by a ghostwriter, Joe Biden. That's kind of a funny one. It's the second book Biden has written. The first was The Odyssey. It's not a bad one. He quipped that the book was about what the former president remembered from his presidency and said, so it's 3 pages. Ooh, he's going all in, Jimmy Fallon. Fallon then said about Kamala Harris, it's kind of a strange book because toward the end, it starts being written by Kamala Harris. All right, there we go. You don't hear too many jokes. They can do that now to cover themselves and act as if they've always done that. Okay, on the New York front, we're going to be talking a lot about New York, obviously, with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, who will be our guest here in just a little bit. But do you remember the name Cynthia Nixon? She was one of the stars of the HBO show Sex and the City. And at one time, she primary challenged then Governor Andrew Cuomo. Because she, I guess for lack of a better term, was kind of ahead of the curve on this. She's far left, socialist. Well, Cynthia Nixon will now, she's been appointed, will now get to screen and recommend candidates to serve on the state's highest courts. She was appointed to serve on the Commission on Judicial Nominations by New York Chief Judge Rowan Wilson. The commission suggests and vets potential judges to the Court of Appeals. Nixon's appointment runs through April 30th of 2030, and the position is unpaid. Most of the other dozen members of the panel are practicing lawyers or have law degrees, but in this case, they chose a far-left actress. Legal community insiders were stunned and outraged by the appointment of the actress, who ran for governor in 2018 and endorsed Zohran Mamdani for New York City mayor last year. She's an actress. She's known for Sex and the City, feud one lawyer who was flabbergasted. State Senate Judiciary Committee ranking member Anthony Palumbo, a former Suffolk County prosecutor, said Nixon's appointment was only reinforcing the notion that the judiciary is now completely political. I'm disappointed, but not surprised that we have a radical progressive actress without a law degree selecting judges in the state of New York. Yeah, it just causing people to lose even more faith in New York's judicial system. Saritha Kamatoreddy, friend of Frankly Speaking, and the Republican candidate running against Democrat State Attorney General Letitia James, said appointing a celebrity activist with zero legal background to help shape the future of our judiciary sends the wrong message entirely. This is part of a broader trend in New York, politics increasingly taking precedent over public safety and common sense. At a deeply critical time when New Yorkers are demanding safer streets and greater confidence in our institution, our leaders should be focused on restoring trust in the justice system and not turning judicial appointments into a political game. Thank you from that comment from Saritha Kamatoreddy. That was 3 waves right there walking by. Okay. Comments from viewers before we get ready for Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. Mark writes, all these people coming here to watch soccer and saying our country is great. So why would anyone try to change our country to socialism where people have no say and are ruled by the government? I'm not getting it. What's in their minds? I agree, Mark. I've had this conversation with so many people. It's so touching and so refreshing to actually see people come here, foreigners come here during to watch the World Cup and just be so excited about our country, more so than many of our fellow Americans on America 250. It's kind of sad. Comment from a different viewer. When will we be hearing that Jill Biden will be a candidate for president? Bring it on. All right. We got to take a break because Assemblyman Phil Palmisano is going to be joining us in just a second. Stay with us.
Looking for a meaningful day trip close to home? Visit the historic Elmira Prison Camp, one of the most significant Civil War sites in the North. Walk the grounds, stand where history happened, discover powerful stories of courage, sacrifice, and survival that shaped our nation. Whether you're a history enthusiast, a family looking to learn together, or simply exploring the Finger Lakes region, we offer an experience you won't forget. Plan your visit today at elmiracivilwar.org. Preserve, discover, remember.
I'm a salon owner and biker.
I am a fundraiser for a local not-for-profit.
I'm in the hospitality business.
Work construction.
I'm a CAT scan tech at a local hospital.
I work at a nuclear disposal site.
I'm a graphic designer.
I'm a machinist by trade, and I also own a motorcycle shop.
Folks that ride should know, at William Attar, we understand you. And if you're ever injured on a motorcycle, we're ready to help. Call 444-4444.
Did you know we waste as much as 40% of all the food we produce globally? Did you also know that each year, millions of acres of wildlife habitat are plowed over, and billions of gallons of water is guzzled up to produce that food? And your wallet is taking a hit too. Americans toss out more than $382 billion worth of food per year. That's a lot of waste. But did you know that there are simple things you can do to help? And spread the word that food should never be trash. Visit us at wwf.earth/foodwaste.
There, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers for our Friday. Still dealing with areas of smoke and a high around 84. Overnight into Saturday, some shower and thunderstorm potential with a low of 64. Saturday's thunderstorms may be capable of some severe conditions as well as some locally heavy rainfall. We'll see highs in the mid-80s. After that system, cooler and quieter, more comfortable Sunday into Monday. We'll look to Tuesday for the next chance of rain.
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. A comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. I was so disgusted by the network television coverage of the president's speech last night. CBS, they were attacking and tearing down the president even before the speech started. Then during the speech, they cut away to political commentary, all anti-election security. Thank you, Lynn. We appreciate that. Joining us in the Hesselson studio this morning, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning, Frank. Good to be with you.
Yeah. How's your summer going?
It's been going all right. It's the first few weeks after the session in June were pretty busy, but since then, I kind of ready to relax a little bit, but still picking up and running around a lot.
Did you have a good July 4th?
Yeah, I did.
Good. Isn't it nice that
it was
America
very-
250?
Yes, 100%.
It's fun. Now, we've been seeing, of course, I read it on the program, what is happening at the correctional institutions when we have our corrections officers attacked and nothing's being done about it?
Nothing's being done. I mean, this has been the same story we've been talking about probably for the past 4 years, especially even before that. But since under one-party control, they passed the HALT Act, which for the viewer, what the HALT Act is when we refer to it, it's an acronym for Human Alternatives for Living. It's just basically what it does is it restricts and sometimes eliminates the ability for our corrections officers to segregate the most violent and dangerous inmates from the rest of the general population. And since that's been implemented, what we've seen are staggering numbers. Right away we're saying we should repeal it. We should repeal it. They said we need more data. Well, the first 3 numbers of the data are very clear. These came in right before the work stoppage. There's been some changes with that because of what's going on in institutions. But those first 3 years, inmate-on-inmate violence assaults, and again, these are inmate-on-inmate. I mean, you think that the advocates would want to protect the inmates.
Right.
Inmate-on-inmate assaults have increased over 169%, up to a record level of nearly 3,000 incidents per year. Inmate-on-staff assaults have increased over 76% to a record level of over 2,000 assaults on an annual basis. And during that same time, the 3-year period, the contraband seizures and increases have increased over 32%. And we know contraband getting into our facilities is a cause for violence. You have the gangs. I mean, we have gangs in our
Remember
prison.
when you had that, I was watching you on a committee meeting, and the person tried to suggest it was the corrections officers that were sneaking in the contraband?
If it wasn't true, it would be funny. I mean, it's mind-blowing. I mean, you might have some instances like that, but that's not the case. That's why we've called for drug dogs to be at every correctional facility. I brought that up. We have legislation that would do that. They said, well, it costs money. I'm like, well, how much money? It's about public safety. Scanning, body scanners, having the scanning packages, and, the advocates always fight that. So we need to provide tools and resources for our corrections officers to be safe inside our correctional facilities. And what we have seen even the last few weeks in Elmira, assault, 4 staff were injured, including a nurse who had a fractured shoulder. A little after that, 5 Points Correctional Facility in Seneca County in my district, they had saw I believe it was 4+ staff that were assaulted and hurt. One of them were shanked.
Wow.
Some had urine and feces thrown at them. Others were punched in the face. I mean, this is happening time and time again. Enough is enough.
I couldn't agree more. And I think
we're going to do something. What's it going to take?
Exactly. And I think it really hit home, obviously, when it happened in Elmira.
Yes.
Very often, we read all the comments, but when it's not in our backyard,
right,
we may not be as aware of it. But when we learn that, 4 staff injured, including a nurse who has a broken shoulder now essentially because of the HALT Act.
Yes, it's terrible. And the sad thing about it on top of it is, we've been calling for repeal of the HALT Act. When we had the work stoppage last year, the reason for that was for a couple of issues. One was their safety, because they kept talking about we need more safety tools. Let us segregate the most dangerous and violent inmates. Our quality of life, because these correctional officers are working double, triple overtime, getting vacation, personal days taken away from them. So that was the reason for the work stoppage. And we kept talking about the HALT Act, and even when you hear the docs, there was an agreement, and I brought this up to the Governor's Office of Employee Relations during the budget hearings. There was an agreement over a year ago between docs, the Governor's Office of Employee Relations, and NYSCOBA, the Corrections Officers Union, and it was supported by all the other unions like PEF, CSCA, AFSCME. All those unions came out in support of it. It wasn't a repeal of HALT, but there were some structural reforms to HALT that would make it safer inside our correctional facilities for our corrections officers and staff. Nothing has happened with that report yet. I don't understand why the governor didn't put it in her budget. I asked the docs, and they said, well, it wasn't us. Governor's Office of Employee Relations. He goes, well, that's not me. I go, you signed the memo, sir. Your name's, I was talking to the guy who signed the memo, the agreement. Why aren't you telling the governor to put this in their budget? And there's still nothing being done. We still see these stories week after week, whether it's Elmira, whether it's 5 Points, Groveland, anywhere across the state. it's a powder keg environment inside our correctional facilities. Like most of us, we drive by that hill in Elmira. We don't know what's going on there. It got a lot of attention with the work stoppage. People started to pay attention, and they have more of an understanding now what happened. But unless you have a loved one that works inside that correctional facility, unless you work inside that correctional facility, you don't know how bad and dangerous it is. And they just aren't getting the support of this governor or, quite frankly, the legislature they need. I mean, they stand up for us. They have our backs, but we're stabbing them in the backs. In fact, we're not just getting stabbed in the back. They're getting stabbed right in their face with these dangerous and deadly policies. I don't know. What's it going to take? Is it going to take for a corrections officer to die for something to happen?
It's crazy
I
you
don't
said
know.
that. A viewer just said, what's the cost of the National Guard in the prison? What is it going to take? People will have to die?
Oh, yeah, exactly right. And the National
forbid.
Guard, we're talking about thousands in there. It's cost the state of New York probably over $500 million easily in 1 year alone. And it's just, and these guys aren't trained to be in those facilities. Some of these are college kids.
So imagine signing up for the National Guard and now you're in extreme maximum security prison.
Yes, and it just doesn't make sense. And why the governor? I mean, that's the push I want to make. As we prepare for next year's budget, when she or hopefully she's not there. That's the most important. I know with Bruce Blakeman in there, this changes will happen. But under this governor, we need to push and continue to say, whoever the governor is, they need to put this proposals, these halt reforms. If not an outright, it's going to be hard to get a repeal halt just because of the makeup of the legislature. We got the socialists, which we can talk about later. But there are reforms that can be done, and you need to use the bully pulpit of the office to do it. And you should put those policies in there, and if they don't like it, force it. I mean, the governor has no problems putting policy in her budget this time. If it's important to her, she puts it in her budget. But the safety and security of our corrections officers, and I would even say the safety and security of the other inmates in those correctional facilities that just want to do their time and get out, but they're in a dangerous environment, a dangerous powder keg environment created by these failed and dangerous policies. I mean, first you start with the prison closures, then you have the HALT Act. You're not providing the tools and resources, the drug dogs, the mail screening, the body scanners to do what they need to be safe inside those correctional facilities. It's just a dangerous environment, and these men and women are going to these jobs each and every day. They don't know what to expect, but each week, each day, we hear more and more stories like we heard coming out of Elmira and 5 Points, which is the press releases I sent out over the past few weeks just on this particular issue. I can do it across the state, but these are ones that are close to home in or near my district.
Did you see that your old colleague, Mayor Mamdani, did you see where he spent the watch party, the soccer watch party at Rikers?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
We're going to talk about him and this push for Democrat Socialism America in just a moment, but we got to take a short break. Stay with us.
Having a safe home is essential to many aspects of our lives. From a sense of community and safety, to physical and mental health, to economic security and independence. Most homes in our communities are not accessible and are not designed to accommodate the changes that come with age, including the risk of falling. The Older Adults Home Modification Program helps reduce the risk of falls, improves safety, and increases accessibility and independence. Through this program, Rebuilding Together works with older adults to provide no-cost preventative home repairs so our neighbors can safely age in place in the homes and communities they love. To learn more, visit rebuildingtogether.org/safeathome.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
When a child is fighting a critical illness, one truth touches us all. Every child deserves a childhood. A wish sparks a ripple of hope that transforms communities far and wide. And when we grant wishes together, we create a movement of kindness, strength, and unity. Wishmaker today and be part of a journey that truly
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. In that studio, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. A couple comments, Phil. Thanks, Phil. Stay tough. That's a nice one. Comment from a different viewer. Did you look up the website that Trump said about last night? Can you bring that up to people? Yeah, it's just right on whitehouse.gov. So just go to whitehouse.gov. There's a section on the top, election integrity. So that's where that is. Comment from a different viewer. Phil, please explain how Pennsylvania gets by with a $50 billion budget, but New York State needs over $250 billion.
That's a good question. I mean, I remember when we were doing the budget extenders, if you recall, we did, I think, 15 budget extenders before we passed our budget. It was like almost 2 months late. When we were, I think, at one of the extender numbers, I can't remember. At that point in time, just through the extenders, we had spent more than 19 states combined. Wow. I mean, so it's crazy.
Yep. Comment from a different viewer. Mark says, Phil, I'll tell you what it will do to fix the prison problem and all New York State problems in general. It's Bruce Blakeman. Vote red.
That's what I was getting at. I didn't say. I was like, next year. I'm like, well, hopefully the governor's not there next year.
Right.
Hopefully we have a new governor.
Exactly.
And it's going to be a competitive race, I think, and but it's going to require people getting out to vote.
Well, and that's a good question that someone raised earlier. I'm curious. Say all the things, but the Democrat governor remain the same. So everything stays the same. We're one party rule, except for it becomes Bruce Blakeman. Will Bruce be able to help us upstate recover from the damage done by the Democrats? Will he be able to lower the budget, allow for fracking, etc.? By the way, go MAGA, vote Republican, vote for making upstate the 51st state.
I think, yes, he can help us. I mean, first of all, when you're the executive, you have tremendous power in the budgeting process. I think he will have to resort to using some policy in the budget. I'm not a big fan of policy in the budget, to be honest with you. But I think in some instances you have to do that. You have to be able to leverage that. And I think he would need to do that. I mean, I would advise him to do that because some of these policies, like reform to the halt, the Democrats don't want to do anything with this. I mean, they're just like, they think everything's okay. I mean, the policies in the state when it comes to public safety, we know there's an affordability crisis. We know there's a quality of life crisis. There's a public safety crisis. And they don't want to do anything. Everything we do on public safety perspective seems to tip the scales of justice in favor of violent and dangerous criminals over public safety, over crime victims and their family, and certainly over law enforcement, whether it's law enforcement on our streets or law enforcement working inside our correctional facilities.
Looking at the numbers on the disastrous raise the age,
and
the lives that are being destroyed, just to your point about coddling the criminals, it's so many lives ruined.
Well, you can go policy after policy since 2019. That's when one-party control took over in the state. We talk about the CLCPA, the Green New Deal, the energy policies. We talked about the Farm Labor Act back at the time, which really puts a crippling impact on our farmers, our family farmers, and we've seen more of a loss of our family farms, and what they resort to is putting solar on their farms or wind on their farms to survive, things like that. But it's the criminal justice policy, the bail reform, which we know is the catch and release program where dangerous criminals keep getting released. The discovery policies, which can't tie our DAs, the raise the age, which was talked about as a fairness policy for young people, it's basically going to become a gang recruitment tool because these gang leaders know you get these younger people to go, they commit the crimes, they aren't going to do any time. They're going to get released, they're going to slap on the wrist. It's creating a very dangerous environment inside our communities. You saw the violence, down in the subways and what's going on in New York, and it's happening all around the state. Whether it's in other upstate cities, if you look at the crime rates, everyone says crime is down, but if you compare it to post 2019 for one-party rule, crime numbers are up in every city across the state and in the communities. And then you have the immigration policy, the sanctuary city policies, the sanctuary state policies that are in place, which create a dangerous environment. We talked about the perfect storm of policies from the federal to the state, which brought in the individual who killed Lake and Riley, got across the border, then vetted, just released. Where they came to New York because it's an open border, it's a sanctuary city. Committed a crime, were released because of our failed bail laws. They didn't contact federal immigration officials let them go, went down to the land and killed people. That's what's happening, and there's stories like that all across our country. So the criminal justice policies in the state, then you have policies that are being promoted like elder parole, which would let someone who, say you murder someone at 40 years old, and there are stories like that I brought up during committee. You murder someone 40 years old, brutally murders and rapes a child, gets sentenced to life in prison without parole. After 15 years, they would be able to come up for a parole hearing. And they say, the opponent said, well, proponents say, well, it doesn't mean they're going to get released. But you put that family through that torturous process every 2 years, because the maximum time between parole hearings is 2 years. Ask the Roby family, they went through how many different parole hearings before Eric Smith got released from prison, and he shouldn't have been? I mean, are you kidding me? That's what this would do. You mean the racist Buffalo shooter up in Buffalo? He would be eligible for this parole at age 55 because he was young. I mean, he should never see the light of day. There's story after story. That's the type of policies that we had. We had a person who ran, a DSA person, run against a Democrat in the city, and he said, it doesn't matter your crime, you shouldn't spend your life in prison. I mean, we were looking at that, and my colleagues were like, are you kidding me? It's not we want to root for a Democrat, but you don't want this guy in there.
No.
Fortunately, the regular Democrat, I say regular Democrat, won the race, but there are, this Democratic Socialist of America is a growing concern. It started out with the AOC, then you have our colleague.
Do you see AOC as being turned on by the DSA? They think she's a sellout and isn't Democrat Socialist enough now.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. I mean, I go back to the point, remember the SAFE Act?
Yeah.
We are the chairman of the Coates Committee who debated that bill has brought forth all these bills, passed them. He wasn't socialist enough, so they took him out. Yeah. This past election in the Assembly, we had 5 sitting incumbent Democrats that were taken out by Democratic Socialists.
As if Albany, it's already one-party rule. If it's not bad enough, now some of your colleagues are going to be Democrat Socialists of America.
Yes. One of them up in Syracuse. Yeah. The ranking member or the chairman of the Transportation Committee, then was there like over 20 years, and people say that's too long, but a Democrat Socialist in the Buffalo open seat, a colleague of mine and a friend, Eric DeLon from the city, he was chairman of the Corrections Committee. He was pushing the prison oversight, the changes. I mean, he was pushing policies that Democrats, criminal activists, people were pushing for, and he wasn't Democratic or progressive or socialist enough for these people. You can go through the list of them. 5 new. So now we're looking at, in the Assembly, going from 5 socialist members of the Democratic Party to as many as 13 now. In the Senate, I think they have 4, and then we saw what happened in Congress. I mean, I pay attention more to the Senate on the Assembly side just because of my role, but you had the members of Congressmen who got taken out by Democratic Socialists. I mean, it's a scary thought. That's what happened to Joe Crowley a few years ago through AOC.
AOC, ironically.
It's amazing.
And I read a piece that's ironic because AOC, that's why they're calling her sellout. She didn't endorse candidates that were running against an incumbent, even though that's how she got her claim to fame.
Yep. It's true.
That hypocrisy.
Well, then you wonder about Hakeem Jeffries. Is he going to be next too? Because
and notice he didn't congratulate them for a couple of days, and he started to cave on some issues. I mean, a lot of the people have outright said that they would not support him in a leadership position.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
the Democrat. I know we've said it. It's almost cliche. It's not the party of your grandparents. We said that 10 years ago. It's not the party of 10 years ago.
It has been totally co-opted, taken over by this socialist, communist extreme of the wing. I mean, it started out AOC, now it's Mandami and his followers. I mean, it's very scary.
When he was screaming at Tom Homan, did you ever think he would be the next mayor of New York City?
I did not.
Because I mean, I know it's kind of a joke, but you and Joe never really saw him. He was never really there. He was campaigning the whole time.
I did see him. It was interesting. I bring a story up to him. He was a nice guy.
Yeah, sure.
I talked to him. He was on the Energy Committee with me, and one time, and his office was down the hall from me one time, and he goes, "Hey, can I talk to you?" I go, "Sure." Yeah. He goes, "Ask you, what do you think about nuclear policy, nuclear energy?" I go, "I like it." Yeah. I go, "I think it should be a part of our portfolio more. I like it better than wind and solar because it's dispatchable, reliable, baseload generation." He goes, "We should talk," but we never talked after that. But I don't know. I mean,
do you think he just gauged he'd ask Republicans so he'd do the opposite?
Who knows? But how interesting would have that been? You would have a socialist Democrat and a conservative Republican advocating for common sense nuclear energy policy.
Would have been a good thing. Kind of in line with that, definitely in line. From a viewer, Just how much influence does the communist Mamdani have over Hochul and the affairs of New York State? Seems like a lot.
I think a lot. I mean, first of all, she was, look at the policies she's implemented. She did this exact same thing Kirsten Gillibrand did when Kirsten Gillibrand, who was a member of Congress, had a, I think, A rating with the NRA.
Yeah. People were back, I was on radio at the time, they got mad at me when I said she's not going to be good for our gun rights. They said, no, she's got an A rating. I said, just wait.
Yeah.
Look at her district.
Look at Kathy Hochul. Well, she was a county clerk.
Yeah.
She was the one fighting a license for illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
Now she's like their biggest cheerleader.
I know.
Her and Kirsten Gillibrand, when they got that statewide elected position, they turned to the left, ran as fast as they could, and never looked back.
Exactly.
And it's terrible. I mean, you could see on the policy that we implemented in this budget the impact that he has.
Yep.
I mean, how much of a ballot did we do for New York City? I mean, billions of dollars in a ballot money for New York City. And it wasn't just New York City that got the ballot. All some of these upstate cities, Buffalo, Rochester, others got bailout money. I mean, significant money that our other cities like Corning, Hornell, they're not getting that type of money. I mean, so these other areas, so they're spending money like drunken sailors, the child care policies. I'm not saying child care should be a part of our investment, but it shouldn't all go like to New York City to cater to their needs, and we need to make sure there's a balance between some of this funding that's being spent. I mean, so he has a tremendous impact on Kathy Hochul and what she's advocating for.
We got to take a short break, but I read a really good piece. It was interesting because all these establishment Democrats are upset, and they're worried, rightfully so, about Democrat Socialist America. But like they said, you've got to blame those same establishment Democrats, because it was Andrew Cuomo who appeased them and did the far left green energy things to keep them happy, so he wouldn't have a challenger. Hochul's doing the same thing. Who was one of the first people to endorse Mamdani?
Oh yeah,
Governor Hochul.
I still remember that video. Remember that video, the Coldplay concert where the CEO and the staff person were like hugging. I saw a meme out there with Mamdani's arms around Governor Hochul.
That's a good one.
I don't know. It's just kind of scary.
It is. We got a lot more to talk about. Keep those comments coming in. We'll be right back after this.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Hi, this is Till, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is a start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amira Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Let's say this is your head. It's way too easy to let it fill up with anxieties, worries. If that happens, visit yourlifeyourvoice.org. You'll find ideas that can help you get back on track. You only have one head. Look after it.
After having the arthritis for 30 years, I did want to work and keep working until my retirement age. The feet problems I had just made it impossible. The team was excellent. They go through everything step by step, help you right along the way. And after surgery, here I go again. We're back out. Moving around again is just amazing. And I'm very much appreciative of the care I received. It was exceptional.
There, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers for our Friday. Still dealing with areas of smoke and a high around 84. Overnight into Saturday, some shower and thunderstorm potential with a low of 64. Saturday's thunderstorms may be capable of some severe conditions as well as some locally heavy rainfall. We'll see highs in the mid-80s. After that system, cooler and quieter, more comfortable Sunday into Monday. We'll look to Tuesday for the next change.
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. In that studio, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. A couple comments from viewers. Frank, we need J. Edgar Hoover hunting commies again. Okay, fair enough. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank and Phil. That's nice. We'll count that. All right. A comment from a different viewer. We can't allow more of these radical Marxists to get elected. Ken writes in, Frank, Phil, when I was in grade school about 60 years ago, we were taught that when you committed a felony, you lost all your rights forever and were locked up for however long your sentence was. It was common knowledge that prison was not a fun place. If you followed the rules, you could get out occasionally on a work detail and possibly get an early release. I'm not saying that prisons are now country clubs, but committing a felony nowadays has less consequences than in the past, and one irrefutable fact is that tough consequences for your action is a powerful motivator that makes people follow our laws. New York has it backwards on most issues and has decided to get tougher on guards and more lenient on inmates, right? We need someone with a backbone as governor to straighten New York out and is not Hochul, the Democrats' puppet. All right, not a question, but dead on, spot on.
Right. Well, obviously, Governor Hochul showed her animosity towards the corrections officers when they did their work protests. She wound up firing 2,000 corrections officers instead of letting them back in. I mean, I heard people that were trying to come back, and they were like 2 minutes late, and they said they're out. I mean, it's mind-blowing to me. And now her answer is, let's have the National Guard in there.
All right. We mentioned this earlier in the week, Phil, but we've got to talk about it. And it's something we've talked about even going back to the radio days, the mass exodus of people from New York. I saw gubernatorial candidate Bruce Blakeman saying that our state bird should be a U-Haul. I thought that was a good line.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a continued pattern we've seen for years. The most recent report I saw that said that in 2024 we had an out-migration of people who left our state of 134,000 people were replaced by 121,000 people. So that's a net loss of a little over 13,000 people. But the problem is it's a net loss of taxable income.
Exactly.
And our higher income earners. I mean, from this same report, I think the New York Post said if you look at millionaires, the percentage share, it's a net loss of about $11 billion in taxable income. And this other report that came out between the Citizens Budget Commission and the Comptroller's report, some of the projections that are out there are saying if we had a fiscal downturn, it could be a net loss of $35 to $50 billion in taxable income. It brings me back to a report, and I've cited this number. It was a Reuters story in 2020 during the COVID time. We lost 3.57 million New Yorkers with an average income of $140,000 a year, replaced by 3.5 million New Yorkers with an average income of $80,000 a year. So it was a net loss of 70,000 New Yorkers, but it was a net loss of $34 billion in taxable income. That is not a sustainable pathway because ultimately it's going to be, they always say we're going to tax the rich, we're going to tax the rich. The rich are the mobile people that can and are leaving the state of New York. And I just think that there's even during the budget hearings, the New York City Speaker was there and the Comptroller. They had some concerns, but while the mayor was saying we're not worried about it, while some of my colleagues say we're not worried about it. Even Governor Hochul said we can't increase taxes on the rich, but they've done things. Even this peer-to-tier tax, which is an increase on second homes in New York City, is going to cost them. You know, people say, why should I invest? Like the one gentleman where you remember Mandami did a press conference outside his home, and this guy's investing hundreds of millions of dollars in the city. And he's like, why am I doing this? I'll take it elsewhere and take it someplace else who will appreciate my investment. And that's going to put a negative impact on the real estate market. I mean, so it's a cyclical effect. It's not just taxing the rich, you're taxing the entire economy, which is going to be a pass on. Then you combine that with the rising spending, which is the Comptroller's part that came out saying we're spending too much money. We're too over-reliant on federal dollars coming in. The budget we passed, as you know, was $277 billion. Actually, no, the budget we passed was $268. And then 2 days later, they adjusted and said, "Oh, oops, $277 billion," just like that. Are you kidding me? What's a couple extra? It was $18 billion more than was overly enacted last year. We've spent under Governor Hochul. Our budget has increased by almost $100 billion since she took office alone, under one-party control. Are you kidding me? This is an unsustainable pathway. I've been saying this over and over again. Even in this report from the Comptroller, they said our spending is $7 billion more than our projected receipts, which is not good. Our out-year budget gaps, we're talking about $30+ billion over the next 3 years. That's got to be addressed, and you can't spend your way out of it. You got to control the budget. And I said this time and time again. The viewers have heard me say this on the show. I think my colleagues in Albany sometimes forget it's not their money. They think it's their money, but they forget it's the people's money. And they spend the viewers at home. can't just spend their way out. They have to make tough decisions. Our small businesses, our farmers, our manufacturers, they make difficult decisions each and every day, but not the state of New York. Their answer to the fiscal problems is let's spend more money, let's increase more taxes, let's increase debt.
Yep.
It just doesn't work.
And I know the Citizens Budget Commission just recently released that the mass exodus of millionaires causing nearly $11 billion in loss in tax revenue. That was just recently.
Yes.
That's not over. And also, if people have an opportunity, it's at the New York Post. New York politicians ignore the budget disasters ahead, and it shows some of the uncharted territory and some of the real fears that we have.
Oh, it's real. I mean, you look at our Medicaid budget. I mean, we spend just, I think, you mentioned Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah.
Their budget's $50 billion, I think it was a report I saw.
Yeah.
Our Medicaid budget, our state spending on Medicaid is basically $50 billion.
Well, could we look into the fraud maybe and save a little bit of money?
I mean, the comptroller, the Attorney General just got hammered by the feds saying she's not doing a good enough job to address the Medicaid fraud, and then he just sits there, and then she's like, yeah, I am. No, you're not.
Yeah.
And that's something because the fraud, waste, and abuse is a big part of the program. We could save some money if we would go after those monies. We don't put enough into the Medicaid Inspector General to go after these things. It's like their answer is to spend more and more money to provide these benefits, to illegal immigrants who are going to get some of these benefits as well.
We got to take a break. You hear the corning whistle there. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Join the Senior Services Fund for Bubbly and Brunch Sunday, July 26th at the Corning Museum of Glass at 11 a.m. Enjoy a wonderful brunch experience while supporting a cause that helps local seniors remain safe and independent in their own homes. Join our online or silent auction to support the fund that makes aging in place possible for so many in our community. Gather with friends, raise a glass, and make a meaningful difference. Bubbly and Brunch July 26th at 11 a.m. For tickets and details, visit SteubenSeniorServicesFund.org.
When you're in the area, you reach a point in your career where you've traveled enough, and that was our situation, and we were ready to retire from the military, and we found a house here that we felt would be a great environment for our children to grow up in. The process is, I would say, fairly easy. I've done it 3 times now, so I'm a repeat customer, and my message to veterans, active duty, retired, is that really seriously look at the VA Home Loan Program. It has been transformational to my family because we were wanting to look for a home here in the DC area that we could settle down in, and building equity in the home is a big part of the program.
Home for me is family. It's a place where you know your neighborhood, you know your neighbors. It's not just a house, it's really what's around that makes it home.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. In that studio, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. All right, Phil, we have actually a lot to talk about. First, let me do a comment from a viewer who wrote, just a comment regarding the people leaving New York State. Hochul actually had the audacity to blame President Trump. Shows just how desperate these communists are. Did you see that the other day? She actually blamed Trump.
No,
Explain that to me.
Yeah, I can. I still remember Governor Cuomo saying people were leaving because of the weather.
Oh, yeah.
And they weren't leaving because of the weather climate. They were leaving because of the business climate, the tax climate, the freedom climate. That's why they were leaving. And even Governor Hochul's telling people to come back. They're not going to come back if you say so, Governor, because you change your policies.
Yes. Comment from Veer. Does Phil ever talk to Blakeman? We were in Corning not that long ago. Can he get him to do ads about the money spent in corrections? I know people about $200,000 a year. That means their pensions will be hundreds of thousands retired. I know you talk with Blakeman, right? But
well, I think the reason why some of the people that work in corrections are making that much money because they were the massive overtime. And I talked to some of those corrections officers because I don't want that overtime. I'm going to spend that time with my family. Right. But when I go into work and they tell me I can't leave, that can become a challenge. So it's not. So you got that side of it, spending going inside our corrections facility. Then you have the National Guard because that's being spent, shifted over to under that type of umbrella. I mean, so we're spending money there that we don't need to spend if we provide proper staffing and proper tools and safety requirements so they can be safe and have a quality of life.
Ken writes in, what are Phil's thoughts on the SAVE Act, and if it enacted, does he think New York will adhere to it if the Dems remain in control? I believe that's the SAVE Act.
The federal act?
Yeah.
Well, I think we need to have, in New York State, well, we have legislation that said it would provide citizenship, would provide a photo ID for voting. I support those types of things. What the state will do, it seems like every time something happens out of the federal government, they fight it. So I can't speak to what they would do, but we need, definitely need a photo ID for people to vote. I don't think that's a burden. And people say, well, if they don't have a photo ID, then let the state pay for it.
Yeah.
Well, let's pay for it, give them a legitimate state ID. If they're coming out of prison, we do things like that. Give them a legitimate ID, government issued ID. Let the state pay for it. At least we know from that perspective that it could track them that they are hopefully legitimate. But that would be give them an ID.
Okay. You know what? Speaking of what you're saying there, though, I know how they're talking about going to daylight savings time permanent. No, but I saw that they said that states could opt out. I bet New York opts out because Trump likes it. That's my prediction. I mean it. I hate to say it.
Everything's always Trump's fault.
I really am curious of viewer rights, so please don't forget to ask Phil, can New York State be barred from the Union as a result of the communist insurrection? I wouldn't think so, but that's more of a lawyer question, I think. That's a Trump question. I can see him trying it. All right, before we go to break, we got to take another short break. Just your thoughts quickly, because I know it is the biggest topic going, the moratorium on data centers.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a big issue, no question about it. The governor issued a moratorium. There was legislation that was passed in Albany. Personally, I understand the concerns that have been raised about our data centers, the amount of energy usage. Some people think that's what's driving up utility bills. I don't think that's what's driving up utilities. They are a heavy energy user. But I'm not in favor of the moratorium from the simple perspective of what kind of message are we sending to private sector investment? They can come here right into our state. And by the way,
beggars can't be choosers at this point. We need business in the state.
I remember talking to an energy reporter last year about this, and she goes, I go, no, we shouldn't. Why are we picking winners and losers? I mean, Governor Hochul's spending, giving, abundance of energy to Micron for great number of jobs, sure. But they're going to get the energy they need. What we need to do is we need a reliable energy grid. We do not have a reliable energy grid. The NISO has said that. The reason for our energy increases are not because of natural gas. They all want to say it's natural gas. The problem is, one of the biggest problems with it is that we constraints on pipelines that don't allow abundance of natural gas that we have in our country to get to the places it needs to go to help the marketplace to be able to access low-cost natural gas. And we need natural gas. 60% of New Yorkers heat their homes with natural gas. 40% of our generation comes from natural gas. So these data centers and what they're trying to do, they're saying they're going to have to use in some of the legislation they passed says you're going to have to use renewable energy. None of these companies are going to rely on renewable energy for their energy because it's not reliable base load generation. We were talking about nuclear. Nuclear is reliable base load generation. But these data centers, do support the report I saw recently. Over 227,000 jobs in New York are supported through these data centers. $49 billion in GDP from the data center investment. $5.1 billion in state and local taxes paid. That's money that goes to communities to help pay for school taxes. So now what can we do? I think we should, I've talked to data center business people. I think the governor was onto something when she talked about this earlier in her proposals, is they call it build your own power, build your own grid.
Right.
So these data centers, they come in, they use a lot of power. My argument is if you need 250 megawatts of power, so you build up the substation and power, then you double that. You're not just 250, you build 500 or 1,000, you build more. You build more capacity in the grid to handle the demand, because it's not just data centers, it's apartment complexes, it's other types of manufacturing that need this energy. And when you have actually the way the policies in the PSC works now, if you have projects that are going to require more grid or investment, that investment is borne by that developer. So I think there's a way, and I talked to these data center people, all of them. They will be willing to put up more of an investment, and I think if you put up the investment to help expand the grid so more people can benefit from it, so it's not being paid for them, if they pay for the substations, the poles, the wires, the pipes, all that, that's going to benefit everybody by addressing the shortfall we have in the grid, because the NYSO, which is tasked with keeping the lights on, the power on, they said we have a shortage of grid. You saw the Champlain Hudson Express, the power line from Quebec down to New York City, that's been shut down. It's shut down right now. It's been shut down a couple of times. That was put in place because they shut down Indian Point because of political reasons under Governor Cuomo. We're all paying for that Champlain Hudson Express through higher utility prices, because that's a subsidized cost spread out by everyone. Yep. So the data center is a big hot topic of debate. I don't support the moratorium, because all that is, and if you talk to the business, it just says that we don't want your investment here in New York. Exactly. And if you don't get it in New York, they're gonna, like Virginia, it's down there for here. That's like the center for data center explosion. These are good paying jobs. And some people say there's not a lot of them. There are good paying jobs, a number of good paying jobs that are developed from this. You have construction jobs that come from along with it that help with and that's a part of it. These people, the critics say, well, that's not a permanent jobs. Well, they tout those types of jobs for wind and solar, but they can't tout them for data centers.
And that our viewer raises a good point regarding companies located in New York State. Don't forget the fines handed out to natural gas companies as well. We just keep sending, or is it fossil fuel? Yeah. Just think about the message we're sending to the business community. This is hard to believe we're out of time, so let me read a couple comments, Phil. Mark says, whatever happened to the idea of these data centers creating their own power? Phil just mentioned that. Sorry, I beat him to the punch. Have a great weekend. Thank you very much. I remember when Cuomo told us if you are too conservative to leave. I remember that very well. And then Jokel did the same thing when she took office and laughed at us. It is outrageous. Final question, but more of a comment. Frank, question for Phil. How can the GOP Republican Party bring back in young voters in New York? And what is the reason for the strengthening of the Democrat Socialist people in New York? It is an educational institution problem or an immigration policy byproduct? That's the big question, to get young people.
I think from a broader perspective, I think we have to do a better job on outreach. I think a better job on social media, because if you talk to younger people, they don't read the news. They get it all off their phone. I know. And I think we have to figure out a strategy. I think Mr. Blakeman has
he's doing a good job with his social media.
So I think we have to do a better outreach. I'm terrible on social media. People know that. So fortunately, I don't have to do. But I think for us to be successful, we have to be able to adjust and modify. President Trump certainly resonated with younger voters in the last election
social media.
Through social media. But I think that's one aspect of it, and we have to show them why what we offer them. Because I think I remember seeing a story with Ronald Reagan, or a video with him when he's a young person was talking to him, and then if you Google it, and then a young person said, "Well, my parents are Democrats." He goes, "Why can't I just?" He gave this example of giving money to help people out. And he goes, "Well, you can come over and mow my lawn. I'll pay you to do it." He goes, "Well, then why don't you just? I got a better idea. Instead of me coming over and doing it and giving my money away, why not have that person come over and mow your lawn?" He goes, "Welcome to the Republican Party." Once they get a better understanding that we're going to protect their tax dollars and their freedoms, I think that's. But it's an uphill battle. It's a challenge, but it's a challenge worth fighting for sure.
I agree. We are out of time, Phil. I know you've been seeing so many champions, local champions, but don't worry, we showed the pictures every time you send them in. So keep them coming in, and NASCAR, celebrating NASCAR. But Phil, thanks for giving us so much time. Final comment. Good morning, Frank and Phil. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll end it on that.
You too.
Speaking of having a wonderful weekend, folks, don't forget, it's our World Cup event. It's coming up on Sunday. I hope to see everybody there. The festivities start 2:45. The coverage starts. Come over and make sure you say hi. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll be back Monday morning with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
William Attar isn't like other attorneys. He eats, breathes, and dreams about car crashes.
He's too fast. He's going too fast.
I knew it.
Way too fast for the conditions.
Shh.
You're fixing this?
This should be totaled.
Boss, that guy is here again.
Icy road. Head on. 2 million. No question.
And one more thing William Attar does. He wins. Hurt in a car? Call William Attar.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Whether you're in the market for new, used, or certified pre-owned, Simmons Rockwell locations across the Twin Tiers have more of what you're looking for with our best price right on the windshield. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.